Alright, let's see. Big alpha progress. Dragonflight's Unexpected Edition, Blizz Guts, Shadowlands Systems, and more. Alright, by Bellular Warcraft. Let's see.
So much has went down. So let's just get started.
Let's see.
The Alpha of Dragonflight. Well, this week's Alpha brings with it a brand new zone, the Waking Shores, as well as a new dungeon, the Ruby Life Pools.
Wow.
Also, the first iteration of the revamped Mage Talent Tree, and most of the Paladin ones. Minus Holy, then two revamped professions, jewel crafting and leatherworking, plus a big update to dragon riding. So yeah, compared to last week, this is a pretty juicy build, and there was a lot to see. Now, right as you land on the waking shores of the Dragon Isles, you're pretty much slapped with this Jade Forest meets Gorgrond on steroids kind of vibe, complete with, of course, all of the modern, tech, the high-fidelity art that we've, of course, became used to with the art team over the last few expansions. Honestly, it's kind of amazing. It's a big, vast return to core Warcraft. And I've been streaming live in this channel. I mean, the people keep on talking about the zones like every time I've been doing them, and this one certainly deserves it. The Waking Shores makes a excellent first impression of Dragonflight's world.
It's whatever.
Just that combination of amazing art. And
question is the world going to be relevant? That's really what you want to care about. Is it even relevant?
Honestly, pretty compelling story. Pretty damn strong. There's also, by the way, a rock climbing quest, which we've later found out from Josh Augustine actually is basically at this stage impossible to fail because it's the tutorial, but I assume then there will be more rock climbing to do where it's actually, you can fail. And there's also stuff where you basically do Pokemon Snap on a raft, which is just neat.
How's Pokemon Snap?
I know it doesn't matter to a lot of people, but I think it's cool.
Oh,
the rock climbing is super high too, so that will pair pretty damn well with riding. Also, riding. It has weight now. You can no longer just do a 180 and a dime. The mount doesn't instantly follow your mouse. It actually has some momentum. This does mean effectively you have to turn like a thing that's flying instead of just, go like that. So it does feel significantly more like you're flying a dragon. And that absolutely makes the likes of the time trials harder and I think more enjoyable. I've had fun just trying to do the same one over and over again to get a better time. So the feeling of momentum works when you are turning. But I will say, it feels a good bit less responsive when you are pulling up or whenever you're diving. So I think those they should try to make a bit more responsive. I understand, obviously, why they're adding a little bit of weight to that. I think maybe just for that vertical stuff.
He has 4 gems now.
Maybe a little bit less. But yeah, I think they will be able to fine-tune this so that, there is enough of a skill cap. There is enough skill, basically, involved, because you've got to think about how this dragon literally moves. But obviously, you don't want to do too much of that because it'll end up feeling kind of clunky and that sort of thing. And one of the things that World of Warcraft has always been renowned for is very snappy controls, which is quite tricky to get.
I know how I feel about this because I haven't tried both of them. I feel like you get used to everything. I mean, which one is better? I mean, probably like the less snap, like the more comfortable one is probably better. But as someone who would like try it out after they make the changes, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to compare it because like I didn't really play with it when it was different.
If you just saw videos. A bunch of weightiness. It's a really hard thing to get both of those.
The other thing is they can make it in the talents, so the dragon can be smoother. So it's like when you just start, it will be more weighty, and then it's like as you level up the dragon and add talents, you can actually make it smoother or like better at changing directions or something like that as one of the talents for the dragon riding, and that would kind of fix the problem, I guess. But at the same time, do you really want to put that on yourself? Like you gave people the product, a good product, and then you made it worse in order so you can give talents to make it good again, kind of thing. I don't know, feels bad.
Totally fucked up our first game project because we tried to make something be really weighty and impactful, and it was bloody hard to make that fun. Okay, Mage and Paladin then, they are in, and with Mage, there's generally been feedback about where abilities are being placed in the tree, and there basically just being a few too many filler talents. I think it's kind of clear that there'll need to be more work in that one. I've yet to like properly jump in though, so I'll leave that for now. But we do have experienced Paladins on our team, so for the Paladins, they're decent, both a few disappointments. Certainly, you know, if you're prot, your shield no longer generates holy power, and I think that felt a bit weird to people. But anyway, with Rat, there's quite the potential for quite a few different builds, but it still seems like there's going to be a single target build and an AoE build and not a lot of overlap. Now, Rat is also not getting any big new buffs or debuffs like a few other specs have, so that, paired with having to kind of choose between single target and AoE, means there's a few viability fears. But that being said, there's also some new and interesting sounding abilities and builds. Like there's one that's very consecration focused that makes consecration feel like less of a filler ability.
Yeah, that would be great if they move the consecration stuff to the right side and move the divine purpose stuff to the left, so you don't have to go in a fucking zigzag across them.
There's then Path of Ruin. It's a new optional replacement for Wake of Ashes that functions as a spender rather than as a builder.
And it sucks.
A much shorter CD as well, with practically the same damage and effects as Wake. Now, of course, that the holy power generation of Wake, you'll maybe need to pick up some more holy power generation through your other talents because you want to reduce your downtime and smooth out your rotation.
Just don't take it.
Then there's a promising and fun-sounding AoE consecration build, which, I mean, it's quite something. So, Consecrated Blade makes your Art of War, procced Blade of Justice, also put a consecration on that target, but that consecration is separate from your main consecration, meaning you can have two consecrations up at once. And Calm Before the Storm makes targets hit by your Divine Storm take more damage from, you guessed it, consecration. Sanctification makes periodic damage from consecration have a chance to generate holy power. Hallowed Ground gives it a flat 10% damage increase too. Incandescence makes each holy power that you spend have a slight chance at making consecration pulse for medium holy damage to 5 targets within it. So you can see how there's just a big old feedback loop of consecrations there. And that's a good example of a new possibility being opened up. But I imagine that ultimately people will have a single target and an AoE build set.
The problem with consecration again is like targets are always moving. It's only good for AoE, so you won't be taking it for boss fights. You would rather take procs for Divine Storm for the bosses, even like in Mythic Plus, than Consecration for the boss in Mythic Plus, unless there's no reason to like the boss doesn't move, which never happens, and doesn't have ads, and it has a lot of ads, which happens sometimes, but like most bosses don't have ads. So again, Consecration sounds nice, but it really is only going to be useful on like maybe trash-ish, maybe. But I still think Divine Storm is going to be the king.
Saved, and that'll be that. As it kind of always has been for talents, let's be real. The dungeon then. On the face of it, the Ruby Life Pools dungeon is short and sweet. It's got beautiful visuals. It's got really cool bosses. And while we've not seen the rest of the dungeons just yet, this is one that is shaping up to perhaps be a bit more like the Mists of Tyrna Scythe of this expansion. Only 3 bosses, pretty short clear time, which probably means it will be a favor to fill up the Great Vault. And certainly from talking to guys in the team, this is one that I think is being significantly more positively received than the previous 2 dungeons they tested.
Well, the thing is, I want to say the Mists and Maw of Souls and Legion, Mists of Tyrna Sith in Shadowlands, and I'm assuming this one, are the better dungeons overall. Mostly because they take less time. No one wants to queue for 10 minutes and have a dungeon run for 40 minutes and then it's like requeue and whatever. I feel like faster dungeons are just better overall. There's no reason to have a 40-minute dungeon or goal of like approximately 40 minutes. You want 20-minute dungeons, get in, get out, get your loot kind of thing, so you can spam it and you want to run as many times as possible. I don't really think people want to spend 30 plus minutes on a dungeon run. I mean, even look at League of Legends. which is like completely random, like out of nowhere, like out of left field. But it's like, look at League of Legends. Most games you want to end within 15 minutes, basically. It's like a lot of teams FF at 15. Not only because it's like it's pointless to struggle, but it's like it's not fun anymore, right? It's like just fucking like let me play the game, let me go next kind of thing, stuff like that.
Well, in addition to the revelation last week that Hearthstone's Refam would be making their way into Dragonflight, in addition to both Reno Jackson and Finley Mergleton receiving updates, yet more Hearthstone characters are being spotted on the Dragon Isles. This is kind of neat. So after we land on the Waking Shores and make our way to the first expedition camp, we come across an NPC called Cariel Rome. And that may just seem like a random name of some random NPC to most players who are wholly unaware. But to those who are aware, it's kind of a big deal because she previously has been unique to Hearthstone, a character that has never existed inside World of Warcraft. Hearthstone really has an almost never-ending plethora of really cool, interesting, lore-rich, and core Warcraft-feeling characters that are just unique and fun, right? So I think with Blizzard adding increasingly more characters over from Hearthstone to WoW, it feels like they're adding some of the Warcraft into World of Warcraft.
It would be cool if they actually did the opposite. So Hearthstone is supposed to be inside of the Warcraft universe, yet for some reason it's like Warcraft is inside the Hearthstone universe. Like, why are you adding characters from Hearthstone? It should be the other way around. It's like, imagine Heroes of the Storm is introducing a new Warcraft character. It's like, why? It's like, that makes sense.
Which is nice. Much of the community, including us, have been kind of saying for the longest time that Hearthstone is where the soul of World of Warcraft was at. It especially felt like that at a time where Shadowlands was doing its thing. But thankfully, with 9.2.5 and a bunch of what we've seen from Dragonflight so far, World of Warcraft feels more Warcrafty, and that's a good thing. So, if these additions continue throughout Dragonflight and beyond, then we actually could be in for some great brand new lore, some fun new characters. Now, of course, I am assuming here that means that their Hearthstone appearances, they're only like in the Hearthstone canon, and I'm sure that their backstories will share loads of the same details, but Hearthstone, of course, is way more crazy. The mean streets of Gadgetzan, that's a bit of a what if, right? So I doubt that the Hearthstone appearances will be canon, but who those characters are, they should still act how they act, right? So it'll just be new stuff in WoW. I think that means they can use Hearthstone as a fun ground for experimentation and creating some characters, and the winners can, I guess, make it over to the big main game, which is neat. There's been quite a bit of discussion as to who's representing.
I mean, I'm not against it. It's just I kind of just don't care about it. Hearthstone characters in WoW. Like, can we actually get like real character? It's like the one there, like you think the Kara or whatever her name was is gonna be important to the plot. Like, it's a nice Easter egg, but that's all it is. They're not adding like any interesting characters to WoW. They're just adding characters to WoW for like sake of adding Easter eggs. Like bring Hearthstone players to WoW, maybe, I don't know. It's like, oh, holy shit, this is a character from the game I play Hearthstone. It's now in WoW. Wow, that's so cool. And then you interact with her and she just says hello. It's like, it means nothing. Right, how about developing actual characters and villains? Like, holy fuck. Like throughout multiple expansions.
The Green Dragons in this new artwork that was data mined in the most recent Dragonflight Alpha build.
How's Ysera?
The question is it Marithra, the daughter of Ysera and current sort of de facto leader of the Green Dragonflight, or is it Ysera, somehow back from Ardenweald? There are many similarities and a few differences between who is represented in the dragon artwork and Ysera. So let's just examine this. Similarities then. The facial markings around the eyes, hairstyle, horn style,
she looks way younger
though. Diadem are very similar, if not identical, to those seen on Ysera's model and artwork. Sure. So that feels conclusive. The only aspect, though, that is noticeably different to Ysera is the armor. She is wearing a much more simple white robe, reminiscent of the Moon Priestesses and Tyronda's attire, and shoulder armor that is very different from the usual green ensemble that Ysera wears. It also, though, does greatly differ from Marithra's garb, so who knows? Now, moving on to potentially more evidence in favor of this actually being Ysera, there's a total of 7 new entries in the creature database for Ysera so far in Dragonflight Alpha, and only, well...
Bro, if they bring Ysera back to life, I mean, I already gave up on WoW lore, but like this is like, holy fuck, bro. Then death means absolutely nothing at this point. Fuck it. Everyone can die and come back.
One of them seemingly is an upres of her dragon form. But also there's been about a total of 30 new entries for Marithra in the same creature database. And if all of that wasn't enough, 2 new weapons have been spotted in the game files as well, seemingly named after Ysera. It's called Knife 1H Ysera and Offhand 1H Ysera. So, I don't know, does that mean Ysera could actually make her way back to the realm of the living somehow in Dragonflight? Maybe through the Will of a Loon, or via, as she put it, at the end of Shadowlands, Great Sacrifice.
Makes no sense.
Who knows? Maybe they've just revamped Marithra's model to kind of resemble Ysera a bit more and sort of homage to her mother, right?
I mean, the gods resurrecting after becoming an egg also doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So...
Found early on in the Dragonflight Alpha data mining cycle a few weeks back, there were these new moon textures. One for the larger White Lady moon, and another one for the smaller Blue Child. So, could these play a part in a new Elune-based story in Dragonflight? Well, perhaps the two will meet again in a very rare and special Embrace event, as is a thing in the lore. Maybe it's something that's tied to the Winter Queen's gift being planted in Azeroth, perhaps. Maybe it's Ysera being lifted up from Ardenweald and back into life. Who knows? But in addition to the moon textures, there's also some interesting weapons that have been data mined too. 2 one-handed swords named Elune's Wrath and Elune's Fury. We haven't actually got the literal models, though, just tooltips. So
would they be the... I feel like that would be what, what's her name is using, Tyrande is using, the glaives. Because the glaives are considered swords, right? In the game?
So, to be honest, we're all just kind of unsure of what these are even going to look like or how you're going to obtain them. Now, of course, you might remember the lore content we made earlier on this year, or perhaps it was the end of last year. Who knows? What is time anymore?
Seriously.
But we were talking about, you know, the Blue Child, the White Lady, all that stuff. We were talking about the Eyes of the Earth Mother, short story, taking a mythological interpretation of that.
Okay.
And perhaps it seems that Blizzard are working something of these 2 celestial bodies in. Maybe that shows us that they plan to sort of continue along those lines. Which, I mean, in fairness, would be good, because I think the best way for them to explore lore that happens off-planet is through the mythology of Azeroth's inhabitants. That's how you make it feel grounded and feel core Warcraft. You know, not cold readouts from machines. They have their place, but... I don't know, personally, I prefer it in an ancient Tauren story. Season 4. We have got Season 4 news. This time it is really many of the questions that you may have. Let's do them. Conduits. No new ranks. They are as is.
And item levels are not increased, meaning they will stay at a max of 278. Okay. This will become the new normal item level for Fated raids. Conduits on Fated and normal heroic mythic raids will drop to 78. LFL will drop to 65. Normal heroic mythic raid will drop to 78. Okay. Conduits aren't being added to the non-Shadowlands dungeon loot pools, but Tazavesh's conduits will be similarly added. The Vessel of Profound Possibilities, an item available for your Covenant vendor in Season 3 that upgraded all of your conduits to item level to 78, is changing. It no longer requires Season 3 endgame achievements, Duelist 3k plus, Mythic plus rating, or Mythic Sepulchre clear, but is instead purchasable by all characters for Cosmic Flux. Okay.
You will not have to bother earning them again. And what's more, the 282 items...
So this is what I mean about... Yeah, great. So Season 4 is when when you actually get Shadowlands released. Anything before that was like fucking beta, and now they're fixing the game completely. Like,
level conduit upgrade
so
item
fucking dog shit,
can be
man.
purchased with Cosmic Flux in the new season, and it requires 0 of the achievements. So basically, conduits, sorted. Legendaries? You don't need to worry. They're not getting a new rank, and they, I believe, are cheaper based on all the other changes Blizzard made in the past. As for currencies, Cosmic Flux will not reset for the season. Sand-worn relics will become bind on account, and Great Vault tokens will return, but sockets will cost 3 instead of 6 because the season will be shorter. What of gameplay then? Well, keys will be decaying 3 levels for the season, and the end of dungeon items will not be capped for week 1. And for the raiders, you can jump into Mythic on day 1 with Cross Realm being open from the start. Raids actually drop up to 2,000 Cosmic Flux, and Nathria and Sanctum will give rep with the Court of Harvesters and Death's Advance respectively. And gear from the Faded raids, of course, works with the Creation Catalyst, and it can be upgraded to Heroic or Mythic using the new item level upgrade items that we covered a while back that are being added for this season. Finally then, the Sylvanas Legendary Bow can not be purchased with Dinars, which is that new deterministic currency system that we also covered a little while ago for Season 4. It's another new experiment Blizzard are doing. But it and the Edge of Night weapons are going to have a higher drop rate. Blizzard also are doing a balance pass on trinkets and weapons. I believe the inscrutable quantum device is finally being looked at. So, that's that. Who knows? Look, there's a part of me that wants to hop in and try things out, maybe even a few alts, because, as I talked about on stream a while ago, man, I used to be all about having one of every class and playing them all and really trying to have that knowledge of everything. And I logged in and looked at Paladin talents a little while ago, and I thought, oh god, I've got nothing to say about this. And I realized I haven't properly played a Paladin in years because, well, just with the alt unfriendliness and everything, I've just played like one character at a time. I've played like 2 specs through the whole of Shadowlands. I'm crusty, I'm rusty. But that said, I can also feel the pull of Wrath Classic. So I guess, what will you do? Anyway, there you have it.
God, no.
Lots going on, and so far so good, to be honest. But as I said last week, it's going to be when we finally see Endgame and what the non-instanced content of the expansion looks like at Endgame that we'll really get a good feel for what this is going to have to offer. You know, that, how they handle gearing, things like that. But still, I will be lying to you if I said that I'm not enjoying this period of good news. I absolutely am. It is refreshing, and hopefully it's the sort of thing that's actually going to continue. Also,
man, if you look at it in a vacuum, it's good news. But if you look at like the Blizzard cycle of the World of Warcraft cycle, it's like it's as expected. Shadowlands being fixed towards the end of Shadowlands, so it's like, why even play for the whole expansion? Gearing is still not fixed for Dragonflight. They're not using the Shadowlands current gearing systems, like with all the whatever they have for the drops and like all that stuff, like fail-safe loots and whatever. A good rock is strong for tired of advertising. We will help. Yeah, whatever. It's again, it's just the Blizzard cycle. It's like, yeah, in the vacuum it's good news, but it's like it's as expected. It's the end of the fucking expansion. The game is gonna be more fun because there's not much left to it, and then the next expansion is gonna come out. It's gonna be dog shit. There's be many problematic systems, or like looting would be like still garbage. You still can't like, oh, it's more alt friendly. Like, yeah, it's more alt friendly doesn't mean it is actually alt friendly. Being more alt friendly than Shadowlands is like, it's super easy. All right. For example, here's a way to make Shadowlands more alt friendly. Your reputation is account bound from now on. Great. Does that help you with anything though? Does that make it so you're instantly level 80 with your covenant? Does it make it so that you finished all of the quests for the covenant? Does it make it so that you can actually go and gear up properly and fast? Does it make it so that you can gear up multiple characters? Not really. All it did was just, yeah, you have a bound on account breadth. That's nice too. Is it more alt-friendly? Yeah. Is it helpful? No.
Also, by the way, quick little bump for our Patreon. It's it's June sorry, it's not June. It's July. It's almost the end of July, in fact, which does mean it's the end of Machinist Month.
July.
And I have a fair idea. A lot of you will probably like to get the axolotl pin. The axolotl pin is really, oh man, it's beautiful. And we swapped them all over to having hard enamel. I think they're coming out beautifully. And I guess the other update.
What is that? I don't know what this is.
Them all over to having hard enamel. I think they're coming out beautifully. And I guess the other update, this pin actually came in a batch of 4 months worth of pins, which essentially means that really within a week we should be 100% caught up on everything for Patreon.
I so don't understand pins, but yeah, whatever. If people are enjoying it, let them. But yeah, I don't get it.
Now, that said, it could take from that point a week or two for everything to reach, but yeah, suffice to say, like 1,500 to 2,000 packages will be leaving the fulfillment center somewhere in England, I believe. We basically have got to get the many hundreds of these, QC them, which is going to be an all-hands-on-deck situation, likely Monday coming. And yeah, once that's done, we wrap them all up, we send them to the distribution center, and then bam! Get everything processed. Not gonna lie, it was definitely, we've had big old logistical challenges, and thankfully, with this shipment, all our stuff is actually with us, and we are, well, we're not on schedule yet. I mean, we're on schedule in terms of we have all the things, but we'll be on schedule with fulfillment pretty damn soon. So,
okay,
there you go. Oh boy. Yeah. Digital things easy, physical things hard. You learn that the hard way. Anyway, if you want to support us on Patreon,
I mean, yeah, makes sense. Digital is like whatever. Anyways, so what's the alpha progress though? Really, big alpha progress. 2 talent trees that are weird, and I don't know, I feel like the title, it's not wrong, but it is a bit of a bait. It's like Big Alpha Progress is 2 talent trees. Dragonflight's Unexpected Addition is the Hearthstone thing, which, like, who cares? Blizz Guts Shadowlands Systems, kinda, but not really. I mean, they do, but, you know, it's kind of like just more accessible, what they always do. And more, I guess it's the pins. Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. Let's see what the comment says. It would be really neat if they introduced lore in-game storytelling events. Take the Torrent, for example. Okay, whatever. Want Bliss to make an actual city out of gadgets, and the Main Street set in Hearthstone had this really cool vibe. Problem with the artificial weight of the dragon riding is it feels more like lag than realism. With Guild Wars 2, there is a slight delay in trajectory, but the animation to stop or alter course still starts the instant you touch the key. If they're going to have weight with dragon riding, they need to go back and adjust the animations for every single one of the mounts so that they can look like they have physics instead of lag. Edit, I'm aware it is alpha, however, after how seamlessly dragon riding was working in an earlier update, it really doesn't feel good. More people with the alpha are giving similar feedback. Okay. By the way, the pulsing con, it's a great sounds. I play Worry and wish we had more to do with Thunder Club. Again, sounds good on paper. I doubt it's actually gonna be any good. It's like, I disagree on the clear paths and the paladin tree. It's not. That's true. In my opinion, there are a lot of trap talents that you could feasibly take to cut the AoE out of your single target build, but what you would actually end up doing is just gimping your cleave for no real net gain to the primary target. Yep, I agree. I agree, as a prot paladin, I really don't like the feel of the trees, especially no holy power development from Avenger Shield. Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's actually like very wrong, because that makes Divine Toll not as good. Don't like my men. They massacred my boy. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I love Consecrate and it seems pretty nice. I worry about Blizz one-itis. So far, dragon riding seems super popular. You know what else was cool? Artifact skins, mob garden, class halls. I hope the dragon riding is something we can access going forward into the 3 expansions from now. It's not just something cool we did once in an old expansion like Winter Grasp. You mean like Torghast? Which was only cool for the alpha. There's an old mod in Ark Survival Evolved where we can fly our mounts exactly like how dragonflight works. In order to fly high, you have to flap your wings, and when going down, you glide. I wonder if Blizz got the idea from there. No, Guild Wars 2. My boy, Guild Wars 2. I wonder if all dragons will ride the same, or if they're adding weight, or perhaps a limited physics. Of course, they're all gonna be riding the same. If they ever did remake WoW from the beginning, I would really want to see the Hearthstone book of merchandise of mercenaries worked into the story as an overarching questline. The answer just need to convert the Hearthstone storylines into standard WoW storylines, and it would be awesome. No, they don't. Still, the good news has me wanting to play WoW a bit and get all 36 alts to cap. The problem is, what I want to play is the DF stuff and not shadowlands. Okay. So for the time, I'm going to keep playing other games until we have a pre-patch date. That said, I have not and will not pre-purchase until at least the pre-patch, and I have a chance to evaluate the state of the game for myself. I'm still very frustrated with the way the game has gone for the last 2 expansions. Fair. I'm still gonna pre-order when the pre-patch is out. Alright. Perfectly said. The game's mystique and wonders should be told from the people who inhabit the world and their legacy left after they're gone. Not some wall of text at the end of a 10-minute long escort quest. Yeah, seriously. Well, whatever. I mean, again, no high hopes for lore-wise. It is what it is. Anyways, good video as always. A bit of baity title, but I mean, it's not completely wrong. So yeah, on to the next one.